Um, we will get started. So my name is Tim Severin. I'm the Director of Social Mission for Bellarmine Chapel. And we are very, very excited to be hosting this webinar on Ohio's bail process and the reformations that are currently being pushed. We are grateful to our Dismantling Racism team for taking up this issue, especially Paul and Lindsay Sensula for their leadership. And we're grateful to our guests for being with us tonight, Jalen Banks from the ACLU and Jeremy Page from the Bail Project. Thank you for being with us. One quick housekeeping before I hand things over. This is in a webinar format, which means if you are an attendee, the way to get your questions to our panelists is to use that Q&A. So if you're at looking at the bottom bar on your Zoom screen, there's one that says Q&A, and you can ask questions through that. There will be a Q&A period at the end where we'll go through the questions we receive. So feel free to enter them at any time. With that, I'll hand things over to Paul, who will be kicking us off and sort of keeping us organized tonight. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Tim. And thanks for setting this up. And thanks as well to everybody who's on the call. We appreciate everybody showing up and being interested in doing this work. We think it's some of the most important work that needs to be done to help us dismantle racism as a community and as a society. So let's start the presentation. Okay. Hold on, sorry. Okay.
Did you already click share with sound for when the video is?
So welcome everybody to this session. The goal of this session, we just kind of want to set an intention. The goal of this session is not about acquiring knowledge just for the sake of acquiring knowledge. The goal of this session is to acquire knowledge and then put that knowledge into action. And if you're not ready for action at the end of this, then your goal is transformation. To start having your mind expanded and changed and having your emotions lead you to something that can help you do the work to help us create the kingdom of heaven on earth. So we got a few different sections to run through. We're going to go through some cash bail system facts. We're going to go through how people are affected by cash bail, the Bail Project. So Jeremy, who you'll meet shortly from the Bail Project, who's doing a lot of this work here in Hamilton County. He's going to present some about what they do. We're going to hear about what's happening in Ohio legislatively, maybe some ways for folks to get involved in that. There'll be some time for questions, and then what you can do if you're interested in getting involved in the work. So that said, wanted to just mention everybody who's on the call. So Bellarmine parishioners who have helped contribute to this work. So myself and my wife, Lindsay, Bruce Yezel, Sarah Damewood, Lucy and Martha Farr, and Mike Tussey. Like I said earlier, from the Bail Project, we've got our friend Jeremy Page on the call, as well as our other partner on this project, the ACLU. Jalen Banks from the ACLU Ohio will be joining us, and then Greer Ashbury also contributed to this presentation, but they can't be with us tonight. So that said, let's just kind of get into, this is just a short outline of what's going on with bail, why it's maybe a system that needs to be changed. I just realized I'm not sharing with sound. Give me 1 second. Let's try that again.
Every day, thousands of Ohioans are behind bars, not because of what they have done, but because of what they don't have. In Ohio, if you are arrested and brought to jail, you will likely be required to post cash bail. Cash bail, or a money bond, is money paid to secure your release while you await trial. This money is only returned to you after you show up to your future court dates. But the court may keep all of your money for other reasons, or keep some of it for court fees, even if you are later found innocent. If you were required to pay $1,000 for your freedom, could you afford it? What about $10,000? $100,000? If you weren't able to pay for your release, you could face some serious consequences. Do you have any health needs that could get worse in jail? Would you lose your job, your housing? Who would pick up your children from school? Could you lose custody of your children? Will someone even know to feed your pet? Cash bail sets up a two-tiered system of justice in which people are divided into the haves and the have-nots. Wealthy people accused of a crime are able to go home, and people who cannot afford their money bond suffer in jail, even if they haven't been convicted of anything. The system thumbs its nose at the concept of innocent until proven guilty. It preys on low-income individuals and disproportionately affects Black people and other people of color. And cash bail doesn't even make financial sense. It costs Ohio more to keep people in jail than it does to release them with conditions. Case outcomes are also worse for people who remain in jail pre-trial. They are more likely to be convicted, more likely to be sentenced to jail or prison, and their sentences are, on average, 2 to 3 times longer. This is not justice. It harms people, families, and communities. It harms me. It harms you. It harms Ohio. We believe in an Ohio where people are truly innocent until proven guilty, and aren't held in jail simply because they don't have deep pockets. Every day, thousands of...
Sorry, not trying to show it again. Okay, so let's, I'm going to pass off now to Jalen, who's going to go through explaining a little bit more of what bail is and how it works.
Okay, hi. Oh wait, I'm gonna make sure I can see because it's okay. So in this graph is some ways of how pretrial detention works basically, and in it speaks on how many people are held out of so many people. So the most important part of here that I feel like everyone should pay attention to is denied bail, people who are detained pretrial, and those who can't afford bail, people who are also detained pretrial, and what happens when people can pay bail. So it speaks on when people are detained pretrial, the issues of being detained pretrial is that you are most likely going to be in a jail cell for an extended period of time. And the repercussions with that is that you are looking at probably being charged with a guilty charge because you can't defend yourself. You can't get released to pay for a defense attorney and to make sure that things are taken care of on your side of on your end of the bargain. And then when you can't afford bail, you also can't get yourself released into your community, into your homes where you belong to also defend yourself. So the likelihood of a person taking a guilty charge is way higher than somebody who is out and can actually get the resources and the help that they need to fight their cases. When you pay your bail, sorry, there's financial release and then there's non-financial release, meaning that there's other ways of means to get you out of jail. And basically, the financial release, what we are trying to get, we're trying to get people out where they go by 25% of someone's income. That way that everybody can kind of pay, they can pay and afford their bail. And then that they don't have, you know, these increasing things, because you can put, I'm sorry, hold on. there's certain things you can put on your home to get yourself out of jail and all stuff like that, and it leads to more repercussions, where you are a person that just took a gap out of your money, basically, or a gap out of how you pay your bills, how you feed your children. The problem with being detained pre-trial, or just being stuck in a jail cell, basically, you can lose your job, you can lose your home, and you might have to deal with CPS if you have children. But the financial release is to ensure that you return to jail. And most people aren't usually given financial, they're usually given a bail that they can really afford. So that is what we're trying to change. But this is basically the path to pretrial detention. And okay, so I'm gonna move on to slide 5. And on slide 5, it talks about what bail is. So bail is a cash bond or property that's given to the courts to basically guarantee a person's reappearance in their hearing or their appearance to court. It is a 2-tiered wealth-based system of detention where it allows a person to access freedom based on how much they can afford or their financial means. Bail is not a punishment, and the courts cannot punish a presumptively innocent person. Bail is also bail is not meant to coerce pleas or waiver rights. But as I mentioned, that if somebody's being detained and they're being detained on a bail that they can't afford to pay, they're most likely sitting in jail for 3 or plus more days or months or so. So you're going to take whatever you can to kind of get out of jail. And that might play a role in you taking a plea for something you didn't commit. But this is what bail is not meant to do. Bail is not meant to coerce pleas. It is not a means for courts to recover court costs or debt or outstanding fees. Bail is not intended to be used as a public statement that the crime is serious and a danger to society. It is not supposed to give somebody extreme high bail that they can't pay. Money bail does not, money bail does very little to ensure the public safety, because you get a bail and if you can't pay, then of course you're gonna find your way out of jail. Also, bail, its very nature is not meant to detain. Rather, its purpose is to offer an avenue for a release from jail, and it is to allow somebody to make their way back home. But the courts, the issue why we're trying to reform bail is because it is being used in a way to kind of coerce pleas. It's being used as a punishment. Cash bail does get returned to the courts, and it does in some way recover debts for the courts. So we just want to make sure that we reform bail and that we reassess it so that it's being used for what is actually meant and intended to be used for. Okay, so the cost of cash bail systems, I'm going to move on to that one. Okay, as you see here, it says every day 500,000 people are in the pretrial detention, 2 out of 3 of America's jail population. And people can wait weeks, months, or even years, as I mentioned on the other side, for their trial. They could lose jobs, homes, children, be subjugated to sexual violence, it just a lot of physical health being inside of a jail cell where you naturally wouldn't be. So the cost of cash bail system, and I want to really say from a personal standpoint that you're looking at your life being completely uprooted from being stuck by or held down by a cash bill system that is requiring you to pay way out of the means of your income that you can't afford to pay. If you're not a threat to society, this amount of money or $10,000 shouldn't be slapped on you just because maybe whatever your case may be. You might have actually gotten to a case where you hit an associate of yours or whatever it may be, and now they're sending you to jail when you're a person that has never had a record, you've never been in jail. And even if you had a record, small felonies that are not a risk to people's lives should not be the reason that you are withheld. And if you are given a cash bail, it should be that the cash bail is well within your income. So yes, people lose their jobs, people lose their homes, people have to communicate with CPS because you can't leave your children for more than a day. And if you don't have anyone to take your children or to care for your children, who's going to watch them? Who's going to be there with them? And that's where CPS comes in. So now you have to deal with getting yourself out of jail and getting yourself out of a situation and then getting your children back, whatever it may be. So I'm moving on to slide 7, where there is more information, more data, basically. So it costs Ohio more to keep people in jail than it does to release them. And it costs us more because we have to keep up the livelihood of those who are inhabitants to our jail systems, our prison systems. We have to make sure that we feed them. They have to get seen for health purposes or whatever they may need. And we as citizens, we pay for that. We are paying for that. And we don't really want to pay for someone who is innocent and in general, innocent until proven guilty. If you haven't been proven guilty, you should not be detained. And as a citizen of Ohio, we shouldn't be dutiful to making sure that we keep up their livelihood within a system that they are stuck in that they shouldn't be in. So it costs taxpayers $38 million per day and $14 billion a year to hold people pre-trial. Also, the case outcomes are worse for people who remain in jail. I mentioned that. Basically, we believe that if somebody is in jail longer than they should be, like it mentioned on the other slide, there's PTSD that people develop. They develop issues and disorders of being within a jail cell. And also they develop physical health issues. They develop harm from them being in a jail cell and having to deal with other people who are physically harming them. And because of those things, like I said, that pushes people to take charges or take a guilty charge for something that they did not do. So they are more likely to be convicted. They are more likely to take a plea deal. The defense attorneys that they are provided, not to say that all of them from the state that we provide to them are bad attorneys, but some of them do want to get on to the next case, and they will ensure people, hey, just take this charge or whatever and you get to go home. And it's never as simple as that. They are 2 to 3 times more likely to be sentenced to jail and 4 times more likely to be sentenced to prison. And the sentences are on an average of 3 times longer. These are truly economic costs for families. There's children that have to grow up without their parents because of these situations, and it is estimated to be $140 billion a year that causes these families and these social services and these communities when they lose somebody to their community. The commercial bail bond industry makes $2 billion and profit annually from the non-refundable 10% premiums that they charge those who can't afford bail. So most of this money, we don't really, we don't know where most of their money goes when they send money in. There's a fee you're charged when you pay bail. There's an extra $50 charge. So that fee mostly that most people pay, they don't receive it back, which makes it harder for the bail project to kind of release people, because not only are you losing the $1,000 that you give to people to get them out of jail or whatever people are paying to get out of jail, there's also a $50 fee that you won't see coming back. These are incredibly difficult to meet with an attorney and amount of defense. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Jalen. I'm not going to repeat Jalen's excellent presentation, but I want to add a little information about trauma. In a study of the relationship and the trauma that people experience inside jail, long-lasting trauma that can be diagnosed as post-traumatic stress disorder. In a study of the relationship between trauma, arrest, and incarceration history among Black Americans, 80% of respondents reported experiencing at least one traumatic event while they were incarcerated. Now I have a couple of stories to tell you. Next slide, please. Caliph Browder was born in 1993 in the Bronx, New York. He was African American. Due to his birth mother's drug addiction, he was placed for adoption. Caliph was described as very smart and a funny guy. At the age of 16, Caliph was charged with crashing a stolen bakery truck into a stationary car while joyriding. He pleaded guilty, but later said he was only a bystander. Caliph was registered as a youthful offender and was placed on probation. The next year, Caliph and a friend were apprehended for the theft of a backpack. This was in response to a call from Roberto Bautista, who reported that two Black males took his brother's backpack, and Bautista had called 911, but later said that the robbery occurred 2 weeks earlier. He identified Caliph and his friend as the thieves, but there were a lot of inconsistencies in his report. So Caliph was charged with robbery, grand larceny, and assault, but claimed innocence. Because he was on probation, he was not released and couldn't afford the bail. In prison, he was a victim of violence and fought back, leading to his being put in solitary confinement. He was released after about 2 years, but it's not clear how long the DA office realized they couldn't prove this case at trial. So Caliph maintained his innocence and refused a plea bargain. He had been studying for his GED in prison, and soon after his release, he passed the GED exam and enrolled in community college. He finished his first semester with a 3.56 GPA, but because of depression, missed the next semester. He worked as a tutor and security guard, but was dismissed when his history of mental illness came to light. In June 2015, Caliph hanged himself from an air conditioning unit outside his bedroom window. Next slide, please. In November 2014, Ramel Edwards came to the aid of a friend who was drinking in public and facing arrest. The situation quickly escalated, and Ramel said that he told his friend he'd get him a cigarette. So he said he took off on his bicycle and was stopped by police. In Ramel's mind, he was being arrested for riding his bike on the sidewalk. He asked him, "What did I do?" Ramel was arrested for resisting arrest. The bail was $500. He said that was a lot of money, like rent money in his neighborhood. In a documentary about his experience, Ramel asks, if you don't have the money, what are you going to do? Take community service? Take 6 months? He said he felt like he was shut in a box and nobody knew. He said officers had no respect for him because once he passed their doors, he was convicted in their eyes. He saw a lot of violence in jail and felt he had to adapt to the situation to survive. So when he was offered a plea bargain, he wondered, how long am I going to hold on to my innocence? Then one day he heard his name called on the loudspeaker for bail. He thought nobody knew he was there. The Bronx Freedom Fund paid his bail, and he was reunited with his daughter. The case went on for 2 years before it was dismissed. Next slide.
Now we're going to hand over to Jeremy Page. Jeremy's going to share with us about the Bail Project in Cincinnati and the work that they're doing.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Page, and as Carl stated, I work at the Bell Project here in Cincinnati. And as she stated with the Ramel Edwards story in the Bronx Freedom Fund, that's where the Bell Project was birthed out of. So our CEO, Robin Steinberg, she found the Bronx Freedom Fund, and then from that, scaled the Bell Project. And we are in now 25 or 26 sites, I believe, across the country. So just to bring that full circle, that's how the Bell Project got started. And just to give you a little bit of background about us, what we are, we're a national nonprofit organization, and we're working to end cash bail. As Jalen explained, and as we've been discussing on this call, cash bail is very targeted, and it's definitely targeted towards Black, brown, and poor individuals who are in jail and aren't able to pay their bonds. They are simply sitting in the jails because they're unable to pay their bonds. So the way that we do that, my role as a bail disruptor is to disrupt the money bail system, and we do that one person at a time. So in the criminal justice system, there's this presumption of innocence and that you're innocent until proven guilty, but that's combated by having people sit in cages and in cells who haven't even had their day in court yet. So we're trying to prove the point that it's not just innocent until proven guilty, it's innocent until proven otherwise. And if you're not a threat to society, then why should the criminal justice system disrupt your life in that way? So we are working to, as it says on the slide, reunite families and challenge a system that criminalizes race and poverty. We want a more just system, and overall our end goal is to end cash bail and to work ourselves out of a job. So our work is twofold, I like to say. We do the groundwork. So as my role as a bail disruptor is here on the ground in Cincinnati. I go to the jail and I bail individuals out. And between my site and the other 24 sites that we have nationally, we've bailed out a little over 16,000 people, going 16,500 people. And the way that we bail these individuals out and then get them back to court is our model, which is community release with support. So what that means is that we're not just simply bailing people out from jail and then telling them to get back to court and to get back however they need to. What we do is we do an assessment, which I will go through that later in the presentation, but we'll go through an assessment and through a process to make sure that we are bailing out the appropriate individuals who would be suitable for our services and have a likelihood of returning to court. So once we bail them out, we do text message reminders, we do transportation assistance if people need that, and we also do connection to social service agencies to help to remove any barriers that prevent you from coming back to court, but also any life barriers that we can try to help find. So could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So this is how the Bail Project funds work. And this is our national revolving bail fund model. So bail is set by a judge. So in Hamilton County, I will use Hamilton County as an example. Say someone was to get arrested and then they got arrested, they got booked at the Justice Center. I call it the JC. So they got booked at the JC, and then ideally that next morning they will have their hearing where their bond is set. And that's where we come in. So once their bond is set, right now we're paying up to ideally it would be 5,000 full cash, and then anything above that has to be approved through my manager. But we're paying full cash bonds once the bond is set, and we get referrals from like the public defender's office. We get that's our main community partner, is the Hamilton County Public Defender's Office, but we take community referrals. I take referrals from anyone who gives my contact information. I've gotten referrals from individuals who are in the JC who've referred other people to get out. So it's kind of like once the word gets out, then people start hearing about it. But we set the bail, we go through our process. So we do what's called pre-work, and we just want to ensure that we have like the right charge information, the right bond amounts. We want to see if there's any holders that will hold someone in jail, whether it be like tickets in other counties or other cases in other counties, not just in Ohio, but across the country. And then we do a reference check, which is provided by those individuals. And we do that after our intake and needs assessment, where we just want to make sure that we can meet their needs. And then we do the reference check. So people have provided their mothers, their bosses, their neighbors. I found people on Facebook, doing Google searches, but I do everything I can to try to find that. And what separates us from the bondsmen is that we're not bounty hunting, or we're not, we want people to come back to court. That's how the revolving bail fund continues to revolve. We do want people to come back to court, but we also know that barriers happen. So our goal is to remove those barriers and encourage people to get to court to close their cases out. So once they're out, they're able to continue on with their lives, and we help them get back to court with those text message reminders and everything else. And then at the end of their case, we get the refund. And once we receive that refund, we're able to use that money to continue to pay more people's bonds. So I know pre-COVID, well, no, I think this is more accurate, but right now the bail fund, we can recycle the money and use it to pay bail 2 to 3 times per year. So that's every dollar that comes through. And all of our donations that come through our website go directly to our bail fund, which is used to get more people out of jail. So, could we please go to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. So these are just some fast facts about the Bail Project. Since we've been here in Cincinnati, I am the sole staff member here right now. And my operations manager, her name is Shamika Parrish Wright, and she's located in Louisville, and she is over the Louisville site and over the Cincinnati site. So these are just some facts when the Bail Project came to Cincinnati, Hamilton County, which was in September of 2020. So these were the numbers that was pulled, but the number of people incarcerated pretrial in the Hamilton County Justice Center has tripled between 1970 and 2018. Black people are incarcerated at a rate of 3 times higher than white people. There were 7 times as many women jailed in Hamilton County in 2018 than there were in 1970. And as of 2017, the pretrial population in Hamilton County was higher than both the state and the national average. Prior to me starting, I know that the previous sheriff did do an administrative release due to COVID, and it did get the jail numbers down, but they've slowly been climbing back up. And that was back in March, and that was the only administrative release that I was made aware of. And then just to give some fast facts on the Bail Project numbers here in Cincinnati and what I've been able to do. So these numbers are just through the end of April. So from September of 2020 through the end of April 2021, I have bailed out 126 people. And as far as our court appearance support, our clients have appeared at 95% of their court dates. So it's not just a one court date type of deal where you go to court, you have one court date, and then your case is closed. Ideally, that would be what we would want in a perfect world, but unfortunately with the barriers of COVID, the weather when we were getting a lot of that snow and in the winter, January through March, childcare, just sometimes miscommunication between the attorney and the client that causes people to miss court. But 95% is a high amount for someone who may have an average of 3 to 4 court hearings to go to on one case. And then as far as our client advocacy is concerned, 75% of the clients that I interview have indicated that that they have at least one area of assistance for voluntary referrals to service partners. So, and then our most common voluntary referral request is for employment and mental health supports, and our most supported need is housing. So, in that intake and needs assessment that we do when I go down to the Justice Center, that's me meeting with the individuals, our potential clients at the Justice Center. And we go through and we hit all the metrics. So we hit, what's your transportation like? What's your housing like? What's your mental health state currently? Do you have any concerns with substance abuse? Do you have any concerns with anything, how, you know, or transportation or anything like that? And once we work through that, then that's how we're able to connect them with those services. And then, as I stated, they're all voluntary. And then at that time, and I believe that's still accurate, we've only had 1% of our clients close cases, which have resulted in forfeiture. And basically what that means is that the individual did not come back to court and the judge forfeited our bond. So we were responsible for paying the rest of the bond if we paid it on a 10% bond. So if a bond was set at $1,000, ideally I was paid 154 or 185, depending on the charge. And then if they don't show back up to court, we were responsible for the other $900 or $800 or however much. So, and then if we could go to the next slide, please. And I just wanted to share some more fast facts to kind of bounce back off of what Jalen had went over earlier. But the pretrial detention accounts for nearly all jail growth in America over the past 20 years, so not just in Hamilton County. On any given night, there's over 460,000 people who are asleep in jail cells because they can't afford bail. People of color receive bail amounts that are twice as high as bail amounts for white individuals, and they're with the same charges, and they're less likely to be able to afford it. Women are the fastest growing incarcerated population in America, and 25% of them are in pretrial detention. 30% more likely to plead guilty, and 4 times more likely to receive a jail sentence. And just to end with a quick story. My very first client that I bailed out from the Bail Project, with the Bail Project, his name is Brian. And when I met with him at the jail, he was being held on probation violations from 2017. This was in September of 2020. So these were old, but at the time, when he obtained the charges, he needed mental health and drug abuse treatment. When he was arrested and he was let out, his dilemma was that he was going to lose his housing. So he either needed to get in treatment or deal with his court case. He decided to go to treatment, and he didn't go to court, which was fine for me, in my opinion. But when he decided not to go to court, he had warrants out for his arrest. He got arrested in August of 2020, and then when I met with him, it was in September. I was able to bail him out. His bond was $1,000, and he was able to. And then when he went back, he was able to stay connected with his mental health agency, keep his housing, not lose his benefits with his disability and his medication and everything. And when he went back to court, the judge completely dropped his case and terminated his probation because he had already did what the court would have required him to do. So this just shows how the process works, and he would have sat longer had we not been able to bail him out. So my time is up. I thank you all for your time, and I'm going to pass it on.
Thanks, Jeremy. Now we're passing on to Bruce to talk about Rule 46. Bruce, you are on mute, my friend.
So this is Giselle. I'm going to cover what's happening in Ohio. The Ohio Supreme Court recently ruled that non-cash bail must be the first choice for judges when setting bail conditions for releasing defendants from jail. And this is typically released on own recognizance, essentially no bail. Unfortunately, this ruling is not enforceable as a law, but as guidance to judges from the Supreme Court. Current law and Constitution of Ohio does not require use of cash bail. Judges could decide not to use cash bail immediately. Rule 46 is the law regarding release or detention prior to trial. And Rule 46 requires judges to consider two things. First is safety. Will the arrested, if released, be a danger? If dangerous, no amount of bail will make the dangerous person non-dangerous. Bail at high amounts can and do sometimes get paid, and the dangerous can be set free. The other option is dangerous can be held with no bail, and that's clearly what the judges can do. The other thing that they're supposed to consider, judges, is the return for trial. What is the minimum constraint on arrested that will deter non-return for trial? Signing a promise to return for trial with postcard reminders, as well as the fact that failure to return is a crime for which jail term is an option, has been shown to be about as effective as a cash bail in getting people to return for trial. The most recent news, this is positive, is that there's two bipartisan bills introduced in Ohio and the Senate, which will go a long way to ending cash bail by law. It's House Bill 315 and Senate Bill 182 are the bills. And your support for those individuals who introduced those bills are requested. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bruce. Bruce teed us up nicely. Jalen, we're going to pass over to you to talk more about House Bill 315 and Senate Bill 182.
So what's happening in Ohio is the two bipartisan, let's see, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm on the right slides. The two bipartisan, the bipartisan bills that were proposed was just House Bill 315 and Senate Bill 182. And here are some highlighted factors that play into the bills and what we feel is most important that people should know. What we are proposing and what we expect to be approved. So those who are deemed not a flight risk or a threat to their fellow civilians will be released within 24 hours to prevent the consequences of languishing in a jail cell. We've all pretty much have mentioned the repercussions of being in a jail cell for an extended period of time. So if you're not a risk to society, we definitely want people released and rolled out. Also to save us as taxpayers money as well. Also, in the case of a person being a flight risk or a threat to the safety of others, they will receive a hearing paired with counsel in front of a judge within 48 hours. That allows people to kind of get in there and get out of there, or whatever needs to be done to assess all of these situations so that there won't be a lot of money that we are wasting. Also, these bills will help stipulate that if cash bail is assigned, judges are required to produce on-record written assessments about the necessity of cash bail, why they assigned it, and the person's ability to pay. They also are required to assess payment that is no more than 25% of the person's income, which will help ensure that people can pay their bail and get out of jail instead of somebody looking at a $10,000 fee that they can't even begin to pay off. Also, some more about the bills. They will definitely help ensure us in ending cash bail. We've met with judges and representatives who are in favor of this. These bills will help guarantee everyone who is arrested to receive an initial release decision within 24 hours, ensure that everyone who doesn't pose as a risk is released and able to return to their homes and communities. And those who may pose a risk definitely will see the judges. I think I've talked about that. These are very important. And if you would like to help assist and, I'm sorry, if you would like to help us, I got kickback. If you'd like to help us assist in these getting these bills successfully passed, here's some information that I'm going to send to the chat. And this will allow you to get your hands in the mud with us.
Great. Thanks, Jalen. So we're going to move on now to questions. Some people had shared questions in the chat, so we'll ask those first. So one of the questions that was proposed was, is bail many times used to create income for the judicial system? So I think what we're getting at there is that money that's coming in, is that directly funding, judges, courts, whatever?
So we'll turn that over. I think, Jeremy, you said you've got a good answer for that.
Yeah, well, kind of. I don't think that the money is used to fund like salaries or anything in that way. I've never been given a straight answer on what the money is supposed to be used on, to be honest with you. I just know it's gone to like the functions of running the county. Sometimes that's like the general answer that I've been given. Or it goes to like a county budget or something. But the thing about Hamilton County system is that they are horrible at keeping data on anything. They don't really track data on like the type of bonds that are set or anything like that. So I wouldn't expect them to really have detailed data on fees and where each fee is going. And then just to clear one part up, because I know Jalen, you had mentioned this, the fees. So if it's a misdemeanor charge, then the fees are $54, and that'll be $54 per charge. And if it's a felony, it's $85 per charge. So someone could pay literally like a significant amount in fees, depending on how many charges that they have. So that's the short answer, but non-answer to that question.
Yeah, thank you. And if people have other questions, just type them in the chat or in the Q&A section. So we'll go on to the next question. So no bail and jail time must cost the taxpayers a lot of money. How much?
Give me 1 second. I can try. Unless Jalen, you may have something, but I know we have that $15 billion cost as well for incarcerating people before trial, and the collateral costs are estimated to be as high as $140 million a year.
Jalen, if you were about to say something, I think you're on mute, but I thought I saw you come off.
I'm trying to ask if the question can be rephrased. I'm kind of trying to.
Oh, sure. Maybe whoever types that in, if you want to kind of clarify, but I think they're asking sort of for if there's no bail and they're spending jail time, so the bail's not paid, do we know how much that's costing? Okay, well, maybe Jalen, while you're looking up that one, I'll ask the next question too, which I think maybe Jeremy, you've got some examples, or if not, I know Paul and I have talked about this too, but the question was, are there any cities, counties, or states that have already eliminated cash bail, and what has been the impact? How's that working?
So New York has eliminated cash bail. Illinois just passed legislation to end cash bail. So I believe in Illinois, effectively, it will be ended in 2023, I believe. So there's no data for that yet. And then New York is they ended cash bail, but it may be a worse system that was in place before then because of like these assessments that they use. And I don't know if it's really a clear, I think they did the best.
Let me jump in here, Jeremy. The New Jersey actually eliminated cash bail in 2017. And the impact has been that the number of people in jail went down and the crime went down. So that is a very The other city, it's Washington, D.C. has eliminated cash bail for a long time. And it was done, and the information I found is it was a positive outcome.
Yeah, so I think it definitely takes trial and error with that. There's no perfect, clear-cut way yet to end cash bail, but in every jurisdiction is different. So New York and Jersey and Illinois and DC, those are 4 different jurisdictions with 4 separately different laws. So and then as Jalen stated, in Ohio, there's been a bill that's just been introduced in Columbus. So hopefully Ohio will be on the list next.
So we've got a question for the new bills. Jalen, I think you mentioned that it was 25% of your income was the max that someone could have set as bail. Is that monthly income or annual income that's based on?
Okay, so I don't know for certainly, but I know we were trying to go on what is there for them, probably what they get in what's their paycheck or so, because hold on. Yeah, I don't know for certain, but we were trying to make sure that it was something where if it's annually, if it's monthly, then that is certain that they can kind of pay. Sort of. We talked about that, but I don't know for certain. Hold on.
Okay, while Jalen's digging up the answer to that, we had another question come that I think Jeremy can answer. In Hamilton County, which elected officials, judges, county officers, etc., are supportive of the bail project and which are opposed?
Oh, I can answer that. Sorry. I can't answer who's opposed, but I can't answer who's in favor of it. So we have recently, we conducted some meetings with, so we talked with Common Pleas Judge Alan Triggs, Chief Magistrate Tom Byrd, and Municipal Court Judge Janiyah Trotter Bratton. Out of all 3 of them, they were overwhelmingly supportive, and they are pushing for bail reform, and they're hoping that they can also help as well. Also, we haven't met with Judge Russell yet, but we are hoping to schedule a meeting with her and see if she can be kind of supportive towards our cause, because Judge Trotter Bratton actually told us that she was maybe a tougher person, but she is someone who can be swayed and someone that can be supportive towards our cause if we can give her all the information that she needs.
Gotcha. Thanks, Jalen. We're gonna, time-wise, we're just gonna move on. Folks who have other questions, I know my information listed in the chat. If you've got other curiosities that need answered, feel free to shoot them to me and I'll connect you to the right person who knows the answer, hopefully. So I wanted to get into the last section of the presentation, just how can folks help? So if you've heard what we've talked about here and you're interested in getting involved, here's some next steps that you can maybe take. So we're going to start with Jeremy and the Bail Project.
Yes, so this is, so if you go to our, thank you, I was gonna ask if you could mute, thank you. That's our website, thebailproject.org/Cincinnati. So if you go on our website, you'll see my face on there. So that's how you know you're on the right page. And then there is it's circled on the presentation, but it says donate now. So any of our donations that come directly through our website go directly to our bail fund. And if you donate from the Cincinnati page, it will specifically go to the Cincinnati site, because as I stated, we have 25 sites, but we all pull from the same fund. So if you do it from the Cincinnati page, it will go specifically to the Cincinnati site. Okay, and then, sorry, a question popped up. And then these are just some of the donation amounts. So one thing we forgot to mention is that we are hopefully trying to do, or not hopefully, we're planning on doing a Juneteenth bailout. There we go. And our goal is to bail out 10 people. So I'm already bailing individuals out. I actually just left the jail before I came here. But our goal in collaboration with Bellarmine is to bail out 10 people and to commemorate Juneteenth. And then just if you don't have a huge history of Juneteenth, it's 2 years after slavery was ended in Galveston, Texas, the slaves were made aware that they were actually free. And it happened on June the 19th. So that is the day that we celebrate, the day that they actually realized that they were free. And with our mission at the Bail Project, and freedom should be free, it definitely coincides with our mission and our goals. So that's not the limit at 10 people, but the goal is with 10, with the donations potentially, and then any volunteer assistance from your church or organization would be very helpful. But yes, if we go back one slide, that's just the amounts that are suggested for the donation. But anything, and the way bonds are set in Hamilton County, they can be set really at any amount. Some of them are 10%, some of them are straight where you have to pay the full amount. But if you look at that Khalif Browder, it was his full bond amount was $3,000 while he waited for a trial that never came. And then I've had the cheapest bond that I've paid here has been $79. So that just shows the range of bonds. And then the highest that I've paid has been $75,000. So.
Yeah, so another way that you can get involved. So if just writing a check isn't your thing, or if you're one of those great types of people who wants to donate as well as directly get involved, one of the great things you can do is advocate for Rule 46. So like Bruce covered when he was presenting on Rule 46, it is a rule, it is not a law. So judges are kind of free to ignore it, but it is a ruling by the Ohio State Supreme Court. So one of the things that folks have been doing is contacting judges, or usually their bailiffs, and asking them to comply with the Ohio Supreme Court ruling for Rule 46 that states that no cash bail should be the first choice. There's a link there. So like Tim had said, I think at the top of this, we're going to be sharing this presentation out. So a lot of these links in here, you can just click them and go right to it. And that's just a listing of all the judges that you can reach out to.
And then we also put a link in the chat with a short video about the bail reform legislation that's coming up. As we know, we're kind of getting to the end of time, as well as the ACLU video we shared at the beginning, so that you guys have those. And so you can see kind of here, these are the bills that are in committee. You can read the bills here and find out sort of who your representative is around this. It's got guidance around, sort of contacting if you're in District 9 with Senator Cecil Thomas, thanking him for sponsoring it, or if you're one of the other senators or representatives, how to get a hold of them and sort of send them messages around this being introduced.
The link at the bottom, the ACLU's got a nice form put together that you can just enter in a message, and it will send it out to all the legislators who helped introduce those bills. So that's that link at the bottom. You can also volunteer with the Bail Project. So there's Jeremy's email, there's my email. Jeremy and I were talking before the call. Probably email both of us. I think I'm probably worse at remembering to answer emails. So if you send it to both of us, one of us will for sure get it. But if you're interested in helping out with that, it's certainly something where we could always use more hands. Volunteering with the ACLU. So we've got contact information for Greer and Jalen as well. Feel free to reach out to me about that as well. Sorry, I didn't put my email on this one as well, but you can reach out to me and I'm happy to connect you to them. And then lastly, just share this information with at least one other person. I think leading up to this, I've talked with a lot of people who, I grew up on the west side of town, a lot of people who would say I am fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. There's no shortage of talking points in here for anybody on any side of this issue that you can reach them. That person who is fiscally conservative but socially liberal, just point out that it costs a lot more to keep people in a cash bail system than to release them of their own recognizance. For somebody who's more of a bleeding heart, you can point out, you know, just some of the individual stories of people like Khalif Browder who have suffered needless harm in a system while they were still innocent and yet to be proven guilty for anything. So please share it with at least one other person to get involved with that.
And then I saw we had several questions come in about when the bills are being voted on. You can track the progress of the bills on the links that was on that page, and I can also put those in the chat. They're both currently in committee, but I don't know if anybody on the line knows Jalen from ACLU or anybody around when the actual vote is taking place, but I can put the link to follow the progress in there for you guys.
Please feel free to email me. I will provide all, and I will respond to your email shortly.
Okay, perfect. Taking the time to be here tonight and to learn about this issue. Like we said, hopefully we gave you a variety of options and tried to put all of those things in the chat for you to look at. So appreciate everyone being here. And I don't know, Tim, I'll give you maybe the last word if you've got anything you want to add about where people can find the recording of this afterwards.
Sure, thank you. First, I just want to thank you all for this really insightful presentation. I learned a lot about the issue. And I know this is an issue our Dismantling Racism team has taken up. So for those watching and for folks who watch later, look for more around this during the summer as well from the chapel. I will have this recording up probably not tonight, but tomorrow on Bellarmine Chapel's YouTube page, and I will send the link to the recording along with all of the links that were shared tonight in an email to everyone who registered. So thank you all for coming, and I hope everyone has a great night.